As of today, October 1st, the federal government has shut down. That might sound alarming, especially if you're in the middle of buying, selling, or refinancing a home. But here's the truth. The housing market doesn't stop during a shutdown. In this video, I'll break down exactly what this means for mortgages and real estate in plain English. And I'll also share why having the right loan officer on your side makes all the difference when things like this happen. I'm Linda Shinpaw, your hometown lender. So first, what does a government shutdown actually mean? Well, it happens when Congress can't agree on a budget, so certain federal agencies either close their doors or reduce their staffing. Some services keep going, but many slow down. But really, this happens when we have a divided government most of the time. That means the White House, the House, and the Senate have different parties controlling them. That's all the political talk we're going to have here, but simply put, that's how we get in this situation most of the time. So shutdowns can last a few days or they can stretch into weeks. But the important thing to remember is that mortgages and real estate, those transactions will continue, but there will be some delays depending on the type of product you have. In my 23 years in the mortgage business, I have been through 3 different government shutdowns. In 2013, it lasted 16 days. And then we had 2 of them in 2018. One only lasted 2 days and the other lasted 35 days. And it went over the Christmas holiday. So that was exceptional. But we made it. All those houses, we figured out the transactions. People still bought, people still sold, and we worked together as a team to make everything happen. So let's walk through the main type of loan products out there. So if you are in process of buying a home with a mortgage, you'll know better what to expect. FHA. FHA loans are still moving forward in the government shutdown. New loans can be endorsed and the systems remain open. There is a lot of automation behind FHA loans. So as a loan officer, we can still register the loan. We can still run underwriting findings. We can still work your loan through the FHA system. However, because fewer people may be working at HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Agency of the government, you may experience some slowdowns. How do you know if you have an FHA loan? Well, your loan officer should have told you what type of loan product you have from the very beginning. But if you're putting 3.5% down, you're probably in an FHA loan. All right, next is VA loans. So VA usually keeps their loan program going during a government shutdown. But again, reduced staff, reduced pace. So you can expect some slowdown there. This means that the loans can still close, but you just may need to plan some extra time. Only veterans and their spouses can qualify for a VA loan, and typically you're going to be getting 100% financing with those. So that's how you know if you're in a VA loan. USDA. If you have a USDA loan going on right now, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but you will probably experience the most interruption in your file. In the past, typically brand new USDA loans would not be accepted or worked until the government shutdown is over. USDA files in process can still move at a very slow snail's pace. I would say USDA is the most government of the government agencies. So you will most likely experience delays in the funding of your loan. However, don't worry, when they come back, they'll pick you back up and they'll just, start where they left off. How do you know if you have a USDA loan? You probably have 100% financing and you would have been looking in a very specific area in your market. The USDA encourages homeownership and real estate development in rural areas. So if you're buying out in the country and you've got a 100% loan and you're not a veteran, you're probably in a USDA loan. Okay. Let's talk about conventional loans. These are endorsed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And you hear a lot about those 2 agencies in the news, but guess what? They're not government-funded agencies. So these loans are not tied to the federal shutdown at all. Now, some of the things that they do might be supported by government agencies. So you could experience a little hiccup here and there, but overall, if you have a conventional loan backed by Fannie or Freddie, you're going to be okay. The last thing we need to talk about isn't really a loan program, but it is something that goes alongside a loan if you're in a flood zone, and that's flood insurance. So flood insurance is a national program. The National Flood Insurance Program is currently paused. So if you are buying a home and you haven't secured flood insurance yet, if you didn't go ahead and prepay for that policy, then you're just going to be on hold until the government shutdown is over. Period. End of story. End of paragraph. So it's just how it is. Listen, if you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed out by this government shutdown and buying a home, or maybe you're just wanting to buy a home sometime in the future and you have no idea where to start, click the link in my description and get some time on my calendar. I would love to help you navigate this home buying process. And I'll also send you my free smart home buying guide so you can start to familiarize yourself with the home buying process and the vocabulary. So we've got a couple other things we need to talk about. Let's talk about some other impacts that this government shutdown is going to have on mortgages and real estate. Well, if you're a federal employee and you're not going to work, then you're not getting paid. And that can be problematic for a couple of different reasons. First of all, if you're in the process of getting a loan, we do verify your income. And because this is a national phenomenon, all of the lenders are going to know that there's a potential that you don't have income right now because you're a federal employee. So if that's the case, you need to work with your loan officer closely, document what's going on. There's always a plan in place to work around this or work through it. So sometimes you can do some alternative documentation, and other times you may just have to wait till the process is over and you get your next paycheck. But regardless, know that if your income is interrupted by the shutdown and you're in the process of buying a loan, you need to have some conversations with your loan officer. Also, builders and sellers, if they're relying on FHA and VA and USDA buyers purchasing their homes, then you need to plan for some delays in your closings. One of the things that I emphasize and actually am really good at is great communication. And so your loan officer should be talking to the realtor, should be talking to the listing agent, should be talking to the home builder, should be talking to the seller. And everybody should know if your particular transaction is impacted by this. But it doesn't just stop with you as a home buyer. It does. It trickles to the seller. It trickles to the builder, right? All of those people have plans after closing just like you do. So really need to make sure that those people are informed. And if you're one of those people, that you're asking questions so you can be informed. And then finally, if you're a current homeowner, this shutdown could affect your income. If you're a federal employee affected by it, you may or may not have a reserve fund for times like these. So if that's the case, you should reach out to your loan servicer right away if you have problems making your payment. Most of them offer some temporary relief options. I am going to tell you to beware of any type of forbearance solution. And if you want some more information on that, just book some time on my calendar and I'll explain it to you. But, you know, something that's short term, something that helps you. If I don't know if there's anything specific with regards to a federal shutdown, but if you're having a problem and you think you're going to be late on your mortgage payment, call your mortgage company, the company that's servicing your loan, and have some conversation with them. And then call your loan officer if they were really great in the transaction and get their opinion. Or like I said, get with me. I'll help you make sense of it. Having said that, having the right loan officer represent you, whether it's now or in the future, is critical, you guys. A great loan officer should be keeping you up to date and explaining what's going on in your loan file in real time. Not just when there's a crisis like this, where we have a federal government shutdown and your loan might be impacted in a way you couldn't have anticipated. But if you are impacted by this, you should have gotten a phone call today. And if you didn't and you have questions, then you should pick up the phone and make that phone call. But communication needs to happen across the entire transaction. As a buyer, you need to know what's going on. The sellers, they deserve to know what's going on. Even if no interruption is going to happen, think about if you were in their shoes, or think about a time when you sold your home. How comforting would that be to get that phone call today and say, hey, Joe, hey, Susie, I just want to let you know I spoke to the buyer's agent and their loan is in great shape. We're not going to be impacted by this government shutdown. So I just want to reassure you that we're still closing on the 30th. You're right. Just simple communication like that goes so far so everybody knows what to expect. And then if there is an issue, you need to look for solutions and backup plans if a delay is going to happen. Sometimes in situations like this, we can alter the course. We can choose a different loan product. We can choose some different documentation to prove borrower's income, assets, etc. But sometimes we can't. So just coming up with a plan B, C, or D, and then working through that might be a solution. And your loan officer should have these conversations with you. So what can you do right now if you're in a situation where you're buying, selling, or refinancing? You need to stay in close contact with your loan officer and your realtor. Don't guess. Ask questions and get real facts about what's going on. Also, build some extra time into the closing schedule, especially with an FHA, VA, or USDA loan. And for sure, if you've got to get some flood insurance, you know you're just going to have to wait and then resume the process when the government turns itself back on. There's nothing anybody can do right now about the government shutdown on the mortgage and real estate side, except for work together, do as much as you can do, and then wait for the agencies to open so you can finish the to-do list. So, just stay flexible, be cool, stay calm. This happens from time to time. And if you can just do what you can do and then wait for the agencies to open so you can finish the rest of the process, you're going to be just fine. I'm also going to remind you again, if your property's in a flood zone, you're going to need to check on that early so you're not caught off guard. So what lenders do is they actually run a check on every property to see if it's in a flood zone or not. So if you are just now going under contract, or who knows how long this is going to last in the next few days or few weeks, if we're still in this situation, if you go under contract, ask your lender, would you please let me know ASAP if I'm in a flood zone or not? Because then you can adjust your timeline accordingly. And finally, if your income's disrupted, you need to call your loan servicer immediately if you already own your mortgage and you're going to be late. See if there are some solutions. And if you are in the process of getting a loan, then you need to speak to your loan officer ASAP and let them know what's going on. So again, you can either work out some alternative ways to document things or know that you just have to wait until everything gets turned back on. Government shutdowns have happened before, and the housing markets always keep moving. The key is planning ahead and having the right guidance. If you're buying, refinancing, or just want to know how this situation could affect you, reach out to me. I'll walk you through it step by step so you feel confident and prepared no matter what's going on in Washington. Click the link in the description and get some time on my calendar. I would love to personally help you. I'm Linda Shinpaw, your hometown lender. My job is to make the process simple and safe, even in times of uncertainty.